For those who may not be aware, my book on rapier combat, Revelations of Rapier, is going to be released in March of 2022. Through that work, you're going to get a bird's eye view of exactly what I see, what I do, and why I do it by an explanation of all of the strategies, tactics, and techniques that I use over these last 34 years that have brought me to where I am today. In honor of that release, I've decided to do a video on one of the chapters titled Multiple versus One. And yes, it is exactly like it sounds. So if you have ever wanted to get your foot in the door on how to fight multiple people simultaneously, stick around, because things are about to get interesting. First off, we need to dispel some myths. If you want to become good at fighting multiple people at a time, it's going to take more than a Hollywood musical montage and a celebrity trainer in order to get you there. It takes years to become competent with a sword, and still years beyond that in order to become an expert. Fighting multiple swordsmen requires a strong grounding in the three pillars of fence of footwork, balance, and sword work. If you are weak in any of those areas, that is how your opponents are going to get through. The second myth I see is something I see in YouTube training videos all the time. I am talking about those videos where the instructor is demonstrating some technique with a training partner, and the instructor apparently is the only one who gets to move. I see these complex multi-phase techniques being demonstrated, and the training partner just stands there. This is not realistic, and it's certainly not going to help you when fighting multiple people at a time. My own experience has shown there are 3 levels to fighting multiple people at a time, and each higher level is subsequently requiring more knowledge and more skill than the one that came before it. So now that we got that out of the way, there may be some of my fellow HEMA practitioners out there who are asking themselves the question, why would I ever want to learn this kind of combat? I mean, it's not like there's any tournaments out there showcasing this skill set. And to this, I ask you a question in return. Why would you ever want to limit yourself? If you have never tried this kind of combat before, let me explain it to you this way. If fighting one-on-one is like playing checkers, then fighting multiple people at a time is like playing chess in 3 dimensions while skydiving. For me, I live for this kind of challenge, precisely because it pushes me to the edge of everything that I know and everything I can do. But to be fair, they would be right to say that there are no tournaments showcasing this skill set yet. But if you've also been paying attention, then you know that Tiger Castle is moving forward. There's even a Patreon channel if you want to be a part of what's to come. But the point is, once done, there will be a venue that can showcase and will showcase everything that we are capable of. Yes, I get it. Hollywood fight scenes are choreographed and they're designed to make the hero look good. But if you look closely enough, oftentimes you could find a small kernel of truth in what they are portraying. And in this particular case, I'm talking about my first rule of fighting multiple people at a time, which is, don't fight multiple people at a time. I know, what do I mean by that? In the movie, you see Zorro amidst this crowd of other swordsmen, and he is far and away the best swordsman there. But that advantage is nullified by the fact that he is heavily outnumbered. So, instead of playing to their strength, he utilizes his footwork and his terrain in order to play to his own strength and break up that fight into a series of short one-on-one contests that clearly favors him. This is what I mean when I say the first rule of fighting multiple people at a time is don't fight multiple people at a time. Break them up. Now I know what you're thinking, that's all well and fine for a movie, but how does that work in the real world? Well, I'm glad you asked. There are 101 ways that you can break up a group fight into individual fights. But for the sake of simplicity in this video, I'm going to pick the most common and simple scenario as an example. So let's say I am a swordsman on an open field and I'm facing not 1, not 2, but 5 opponents at the same time. In this scenario, I am the black circle marked F1, my opponents are the blue circles marked B1 through B5. My opening move is to pick one of the swordsmen on the end and press them quickly on a curving path. Now the reason for this curving path isn't important right now. That will be explained in the next section. But what is important is the effect this movement has on the line as a whole. B1 and B2 will both back away from me as I slap their blades around, but it is not B2 I'm concerned about, only B1. I press as though I'm trying to slip to the outside, and B1 will back away from me and turn in order to prevent themselves from being flanked. B3, meanwhile, is going to maintain the integrity of the line as best they can by turning and forcing me to face as many blades as possible, but it's B4 and B5 who realize quickly that they are being left out of the fight. In response, they proceed to run, with B5 moving the fastest because he's got the most ground to cover and time is of the essence. As soon as I see B5 commit to that run, I cut back and intercept him on an outside line. Because of the suddenness of that cutback, B1 and B2 will continue retreating away from me for an additional step. Similarly, B4 and B5 are running and therefore will continue moving toward me for an additional step. But before B5 even finishes that step, I will be there. And now, for the next 1 to 2 seconds, it is a one-on-one fight between me and B5. From there, it is a matter of the result of our contest that determines what I do next. If I am successful in taking out B5, then I will immediately engage B4. B1, 2, and 3 will spend the next 1 to 2 seconds just trying to get back into the fight. If, however, B5 survives our encounter, then I will do yet another cutback, intercepting B1 as he is in the middle of his run, trying to catch up. There is more, obviously, that follows from there, but I think you get the idea about how the line begins to disintegrate from there. Also, you will notice you need to have room to move in order to make any of this work. It is important that you use the space in order to defeat them and break them up through the use of superior footwork and unpredictability. The second level of fighting multiple opponents comes by an understanding of what I have come to term as the center of measure. So let's say you are a swordsman who finds themselves fighting 2 opponents at the same time. In this image, you are the black circle and your opponents are the green circles marked F1 and F2. The blue arcs in front of each of these opponents represent the effective reach of each of those opponents on a lunge. Where those arcs overlap represents the area I call the center of measure, also the COM, and that represents the area where both fencers can reach you at the same time. The area within those arcs where they do not overlap represents the areas where only one fencer can reach you at a time. If you are a fencer who attacks their opponents along the outside edge of that COM, then you are effectively employing the first rule of multiple versus one combat by turning the contest into a series of short one-on-one contests that in turn significantly increases your chances of winning the fight. Now you're probably already thinking about it, but what happens to the shape of that COM when you're facing more than 2 opponents? When you are facing 3 opponents, the COM takes on a decidedly different shape, but important to note that in fighting 3 people, you have also created an additional 2 COMs whereby 2 opponents can reach you at the same time on the left and on the right. So the third and final level of fighting multiple people at the same time is the one that requires the most skill, because it is here that you must well and truly engage more than one fencer at the same time. Like before, you do this by avoiding the COM where all fencers can reach you at the same time, and you fight them according to your use of time, timing, your knowledge of the various COMs, and the 2-target concept, and a great many other skills that you have learned over the course of your career. This is not something you're going to learn overnight, and it's certainly not something that I can cover over the course of this short video. But rest assured, through proven practice, this is definitely a skill set you can learn. So I hope you found this knowledge enlightening. As always, this short video does not cover anywhere near the amount of knowledge there is available on this, and I don't have enough time over the course of this video to cover everything there is to know. But it does give you a good overview and a good starting point to employing this knowledge in your own practice. And to my Patreon supporters, big shout out to you guys. Every little bit helps, and every little bit that you have contributed is going to be put to good use in bringing Tiger Castle to life, the preparations for which begin this year. For those of you who are not yet signed up, if you want to be a part of this historic endeavor, just click the link on the video below and you too can be a part.